When COVID killed 30,000 people, the entire world shut down. But if diarrhea killed 2 million people every year, nothing is alarming. So now this $150 billion require politicians to gain some visibility mileage out of it. And only charismatic agenda like water, children, women, things that can elevate the political standing will be marketable and will be funded. I have exactly 4,433 days to my 80th birthday, which I call expiry date. And if you don't spend this time properly, you just waste this opportunity to live a wholesome life.
Today, I am joined by Jack Sim, more affectionately known as Mr. Toilet. He's the author of the new book, The Gumption of Mr. Toilet, where he talks about how he mobilized the world to effect change, bringing clean sanitation from Singapore to the world. So it is my honor and privilege to have Jack here with me today.
Thank you very much.
Lee Kuan Yew said that air conditioning was the most important invention of the 20th century. It enabled Singaporean workers to work more effectively. I would argue that, maybe the clean toilet should be up there at 1 or 1.5. Do you agree or disagree?
British Medical Journal actually conducted a vote for all the doctors and scientific researchers on what is the most biggest medical advancement in the history of mankind. And it was voted that the flush toilet is the most important medical invention because it extended human life by 20 years. And vaccine couldn't do that, penicillin couldn't do that, X-ray couldn't do that, and the toilet did it. That human life was formerly shorter and now we are living much longer. Of course, nowadays there is a lot of other health things that you can keep on not dying because you can replace organs and later on 3D printing. But up to that last vote, the toilet is the winner.
A flush toilet is actually one of the most important inventions in helping us improve our lifespan. And maybe the aircon will come in terms of enhancing productivity.
And also hygiene and hand washing. That goes together with the flush toilet.
I want to ask you to help me paint a picture, what are some of the negative or downsides to an economy, to a person, if they don't have access to a clean toilet? What are some of the bad things that can happen?
So I have the personal experience of being born in 1957 in Singapore, when Singapore is a very, very poor country. Our house is attap house and we don't have a toilet at home. And the toilet that is commonly used by everybody in the village is a bucket system. And as a child, I go there and I see all the shit of different colors by everybody, blood from sanitary pad. And while you are squatting there, the flies, the very big green flies, they are all disturbing me. And it's a very traumatic experience to go to the toilet. So in the end, I didn't go to the toilet. I always use this chamber pot. And I asked my mother to dispose it into the toilet after I use so that I don't have the trauma. When I first started in 2001, 40% of the world don't have a toilet. So they're actually shitting behind bushes, in the open, next to the drain, by the river sides. And this is serious problem because the women lost their privacy. They get peeping Tom, they get molested, they get raped, and sometimes they get killed by the rapist because he didn't want to get evidence. And why should all this happen just because people don't have a toilet? And women, girls who are menstruating, they drop out of school when the school have no toilet because you can't change sanitary pad in front of the boys. And so they drop out of school eventually. They go on to the poverty spiral because they are uneducated, illiterate. Of course, the spread of the disease from the flies and the polluted water that they drink created 2 million deaths of diarrhea every year. And when COVID killed 30,000 people, the entire world shut down. But if diarrhea killed 2 million people every year, nothing is alarming. They don't pay attention to it because diarrhea only kill poor people. And COVID killed middle class and rich people. So this caste system in diseases in the world that we have to break. That's why I created the World Toilet Organization to put sanitation on center stage.
It's interesting you say that because when you think about something like COVID, it doesn't differentiate or it doesn't discriminate against classes. It doesn't discriminate on where you are. But diarrhea is maybe a more geographic or more specific location.
Global south.
If you look at clean water and sanitation, a lot of people put them together, they bunch them up together, and they group them and say, hey, that's a joint agenda. You've been very instrumental in pushing for a separate agenda for sanitation, access to clean toilets. Prior to that, why did people, despite its huge cost of not having access to clean toilet, why did people discount?
So the development sector, the NGO sector, spend about 150 billion US dollar a year. And this money comes from donors. And the biggest donor are country donors, not philanthropic donors. Philanthropic donor is small. The country donors are big and the corporate donors are even smaller. So now this $150 billion require politicians to gain some visibility mileage out of it. And only charismatic agenda like water, children, women, things that can elevate the political standing will be marketable and will be funded. And since sanitation is parked underwater, then water get all the attention because photograph of children splashing water, being very happy, is much better than a photograph of a child squatting in the toilet. It's not marketable. And because sanitation is not a charismatic agenda, it's lost. So I found that if 2 million people die every year and you cannot talk about it, then you cannot improve. So I took the subject, put it on global media center stage by a unique blend of humor and serious facts. And when people laugh at it, they listen to me. And then when they saw the facts, they were like shocked why people don't talk about it. And so over the last 25 years that the World Toilet Organization existed, we have changed and broke the taboo on sanitation.
Maybe we can start with your work here in Singapore in the very beginning when you first started the Restroom Association of Singapore. What were some of the problems in the toilets that you saw and how do you champion change?
So I was 40 years old and there was a recession caused by the Asian currency crisis. I had 16 successful company, but the market is slow, so I'm a little bit bored. I've kind of ADHD in a positive sense. So I have to redefine myself. What is it that make a life meaningful? I've got some money. I don't worry about money. I have got the rest of my 40 years. I've already spent 40 years. So I was looking for something to do that is meaningful. And when I read about Goh Chok Tong saying that we should measure our graciousness of a society according to the cleanliness of our public toilet, then I thought, this is not very fair, because if the coffee shop owner refused to clean up the toilet, how could you ask the user to bring brushes and detergent and squeegee? Every time they go to lunch, they must all prepare pails and all that to clean the toilet if they want to use one. So you need behavior, yes, but you also need cleaning and you also need the architectural design. So I started the Restroom Association and everybody likes it. When the newspaper publish it, they say somebody ought to have started this long ago. So I was very happy and we clean up a lot of like shopping center used to be very dirty, and we told them that you can retain your customer and earn more money when the customers stay and the toilet are clean. They can eat, they can shop, and impulse buying is very, very profitable. And the shopping center immediately got it. We go to the school, we say that children can concentrate more and the marks gets better if they don't suppress urination because toilet is smelly. Teachers, principal They get it. The only people who don't get it is the coffee shop owner who says that it's better to keep it dirty so that nobody use it. And in any case, it doesn't affect my business. I have cheap and delicious food. So everybody come, everybody know my toilet is dirty. I prefer to save money, $2,000 a month, not to clean the toilet. And that's why I think in Singapore, for the next 60 years, we will have to accept that our coffee shop toilet will continue be the dirtiest toilet in the whole country, and it will never be safe. I'm sorry, I given up on that one, and it will never happen. And please all accept that we will have a blemish in our image as clean garden city, and we will never, forever, have clean toilet with the coffee shop.
I want to double click on a point. Actually, I think what you really did well in your work so far is that you essentially tried to solve a demand supply problem, right? Because I think what PM back then was saying was that, we should have the people on the demand side, the consumers should be gracious. That's true. But what's equally true, or what's even more true, is that you need a better supplier. The people who are actually at the malls, the people who are actually taking care of the place. I know in the past, you actually have to pay 20 cents to enter the toilet, right? So that's a transaction that's happening right there. And if you are expecting me to pay 20 cents, then I should expect, a minimum level of cleanliness.
The basic problem is that if the user of the coffee shop and the user of the shopping center are the same, then I asked the NEA, why is it that the coffee shop are dirty? Because it's the same user. So the NEA explanation is very simple. Jack, it's so simple to understand. The shopping center employ cleaners, and the coffee shop is dirty by the user. Hey, can you understand, Jack? I say I don't understand. This is kind of like making me a little bit crazy, because where's the logic? It's double standard. Why don't the coffee shop have cleaners? And they say, we can employ armies of cleaners. Oh, suddenly the conversation changed to army of cleaners. Then NEA, why is it that those hawker center operated by you, you employ army of cleaner to clean them and you pay them? They say that's because we don't want complaint. Now you got 3-4 contradicting logic. You don't want complaint, so your hawker center is clean, and the coffee shop shouldn't employ cleaner, and the shopping center should employ cleaner. I think they are talking nonsense.
So in a sense, what they should really be doing is clamping down, making the cost of dirty toilets more expensive, right? Because right now, if it's cheap to have a dirty toilet, maybe I'll pay a fine here and there. So be it.
So they start to fine people. You know how much they fine? Sometimes they just give a warning letter, and then they fine $500. Now to clean the toilet costs $2,000, and about 300-400 coffee shop get fined $500 a year, and only about 30% get fined, right? So the 70% dirty don't get fined. And so the coffee shop owner is making his calculation. Well, per year, it cost me $24,000 to clean up, but I only pay $500 fine, so I save $23,500. Why not? Let me keep it dirty and pay a fine. And then the government say, Jack, you pressure me too much. I'm going to show you. I am shutting them down. So I say, okay, that's very good. They shut, I think, 5 coffee shop down for dirty toilet for one day. What's the use? I think the most effective thing is we do podcasts like this, we do social media, and we tell people never to go to the coffee shop that are fine. And then we should go to the NEA list. Is available and hidden in some very obscure place on their website, all the people who are fine. And we should use social media to tell, don't patronize this toilet. That will incentivize the rest of the coffee shop to say, oh, now suddenly it hurts my business, I'm going to clean up. And they will be the same as the shopping center eventually. People have to speak up against the owner, but not against each other, which the NEA would prefer, that you blame the user, Singaporeans are so bad. So the NEA like to gaslight us, and we should not accept to be gaslighted. We should stand up and say, coffee shop owner, please clean up.
There should definitely be more responsibility that coffee shop owners should have, with regards to clean sanitation. in their toilets. But I don't know whether NEA is actively trying to gaslight us. I think it's possible as you work with bureaucracies as well that
They like to push the blame away so
they are
that
competing
they do
agendas,
nothing.
right? They
Yeah.
are competing agendas and different priorities. So for them, maybe this is not on the list. And maybe our job as citizens is to say, like what you did with so many other countries, which is, I want to push that agenda item up even higher, right?
Can you imagine, over the last 20 years, I've managed to work with the Chinese government, 1.4 billion people, to clean up all their public toilet from horrible, very much dirtier than Singapore. Today, every public toilet is clean, especially tourism toilet. So if you go to tourism in China, you're shocked. How come it's cleaner than Singapore? Finally, the measurement is, are all our toilets clean?
Yeah.
And don't keep on blaming the user, because the last 30 years, we blame it and we got no result. And Einstein say, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Yeah. Actually, if you look, for the most part, most of our experiences in toilets actually in Singapore has actually been fairly pleasant, right? You go to the malls, like what you say, you go to your office. Everyone, if you need to have access to a toilet, you go to your home, you have a clean toilet at home. So I think most of us might, even with the examples that you've highlighted, we might have kind of underappreciated clean toilets. Help me understand, when you started the World Toilet Organization, China was one of the big kind of markets, or one of the big countries that you had to help solve clean sanitation for. What was the problems that they were facing back then, and what was your approach to solving it?
Of course, there was an opportunity that they are hosting the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. So for that, they have such a big urgency to clean up all the public toilet, so that it's a coming of age party for the China to show the world that they are now ready for business in the world, and they have the quality. So they got Zhang Yimou, which did an amazing opening ceremony and closing ceremony for the Beijing Olympics. But if people experience bad toilet, then the media will be blamishing China on the toilet. So they hosted World Toilet Summit in 2004, and in 4 years, we clean up, renovate, build 6,000 public toilet blocks in Beijing alone. And the Olympics went very, very well. During the World Toilet Summit in 2004, journalists all over the world asked me, what do you think about the situation of toilet in China? And my answer is, we are now in Tiananmen Square. We have this model toilet that is very beautiful. And in the future, every toilet in China will look like this toilet. And the media came positive in 2004. And that carries the story about how to, if Beijing can do it, so can Shanghai do it, so can Shenzhen do it, and so can everywhere. And then we went a whole series of World Toilet Summit in Xi'an, in Macau, in Shanghai, and in Hainan Island. And eventually, all tourism toilet became clean. And when tourism are clean, 90% of tourists are local tourists. Then it affects the demand of their local public toilet as well. So this movement is very, very powerful. Now you look at the media in Singapore. Instead of saying positive story, the media keep on blaming the user. And so, oh, Singaporean, oh my, hopeless. And then the Singaporean believe that. So it's hopeless. So that's why I tell you, I give up in Singapore. I better spend my time overseas helping more people.
The lesson that I kind of learned from it was that you had to appeal to their interests, right? Because if it wasn't for the Beijing Olympics, maybe you would have a harder time getting into China.
But the other point, which is amazing, is that President Xi Jinping appointed himself as the champion of China toilet revolution. And he tabled this 3 times in the Liang Hui, yeah, and in the Renmin Dahui. So he actually spoke about this as his personal pet project. And so when a leader of a country say that every province, every city, party secretary, mayor, governor, they all run and they all want to show central government that they are doing a good job with toilet. If Lawrence Wong would say, I want to be the champion of Singapore toilet revolution, maybe the MP will run. Will they run? I don't know. Because the NEA definitely don't want to run. And I've written to PMO so many times and they just forward the letter to NEA and then it just disappear into a black hole.
Yeah, and that is the nature of bureaucracies, right?
No, it's not the nature, it's the nature of Singapore. I mean, I have also solved toilet problem in India, and Prime Minister Modi became the champion of Clean India Mission, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. And I worked with him or his team, and he built 110 million toilets. I mean, this is another amazing revolution. 110 million toilets. That's the biggest toilet construction project in the history of mankind. And if you think Modi can do it, head of state, Xi can do it, head of state, why not Lawrence Wong?
So make it a political agenda in a sense.
It's the fastest way.
Yeah.
Because if the prime minister say, I want this to be done, I don't like it, Singapore should have a reputation of clean, green, garden city. We are livable city in the world. Why should have dirty toilet?
I think that the parallel here, if we look at history, is like when Lee Kuan Yew wanted Singapore to be the garden city, right? So when he said, I really want Singapore to be a place where we have trees everywhere, and I'm going to be involved in planting those trees myself, for example, then we started to see a lot more buy-in from the government. The government obviously did support him because he was the leader. So it all starts from the top.
We are taxpayers. We are paying for their inefficiency and bad reputation. And we are Singapore. We built Marina Bay Financial Center. Nonsense. We can do great things. Then how come we can't clean up 1,200 coffee shop toilet? We can't. The rest we can. Funny, right?
You had to bring clean toilets to India as well. The impetus for change in India might have been different from China. Because in China, you had that part of it was the Beijing Olympics. And that was like that moment in time where you captured the opportunity and you went for it. Whereas in India, maybe they didn't have the equivalent. So what was the kind of factor that kind of pushed you towards India?
So when I went to India, 2007, they hosted the World Toilet Summit. So 2004 was Beijing. 2007 in Delhi, we hosted it in the government Bigen Bawan building, which is the government conference hall. And we have, at that time, the Congress Party. And once we got that meeting with the President of India, President Abdul Kalam, came to our meeting, and the Crown Prince of the Netherlands, who is a water champion, came to our meeting, and 6 ministers, and suddenly the whole Indian community, political community, realized that they can win votes by promising people toilet. And that started the legitimacy and the competition between the MLA, which is the MPs, everywhere, promising people toilets. And they win election by promising people toilet. And if they don't build it, the next time they lost. And that was 2007. And it culminated the momentum over so many years that when Modi came, he promised everyone a toilet. 110 million toilet, and he won a landslide victory. Of course, there's other problem with the corruption of the Congress Party, but one of the reason was the Clean India mission, right? And Swachh Bharat carries him to 3 victories. And I think that it was amazing. And also in 2007, the Crown Prince of the Netherlands was at that World Toilet Summit, and he asked me, hey, Jack, where are all your people? And I say, well, you are looking at all the people. I don't have people, it's only me. And he was really shocked that you can do 7 World Toilet Summit in different countries and you can have it in such a big scale and you are only alone. And I say, yeah, nobody will donate money. You know, my agenda is sanitation. So I have no choice. I work for free also. I pay for my own expenses and hotels and air tickets, right? And that's the life you want to lead if you want to change something.
I want to ask you about raising money in India because I think you have a fascinating story to share. You have this knack for being able to seize the opportunity. You have managed to get Salman Khan, Indian Bollywood star, to fundraise for you. Take me through that story.
So I was invited to the India Today conclave. This was, I think, 2013. And I was sitting in the audience, but I knew Salman Khan was coming. And the security was amazing in that Taj Hotel. And I said, this guy must be so important because when Amitabh Bachchan came in the morning, there was no security. And when Salman Khan, it was like every journalist is rushing from the back door to the front door and they're just giving them false leads so that the Salman Khan can enter the hotel safely. So I talked to the host, the MC. I said, when Salman Khan comes, can I ask a question? And then you introduce him who I am. And she says, okay. So I plot a little bit. And when the show starts, I asked Salman Khan, can he make a movie on toilets to make toilets sexy? And then he was wondering, who is this guy? And then the host said, he's Mr. Toilet. And then Salman Khan invited me on stage. And then through the conversation, we fundraised 140,000 US dollar. And he donated the first 20,000 US dollar. And I think opportunity like this don't come every day, but every time a window of opportunity open, I see it, I seize it. That is entrepreneurship, you know.
Yes, he did the first 20,000. How did he get the remaining 120,000? From the people just there and then.
Yeah, so we get he called out, okay, I'll give 20,000. Anybody else? And then this rich company like Fortis Group and others, they just stand up and they say, okay, we'll give, and the cameras are on them, so they cannot renege after that. It took us 6 months to collect money from these people, telling them that they are already on TV, they better pay up. And we got it. Yeah. So I think it was on national television, and the next morning when I go to the custom, the officer was saying, are you the one with Salman Khan last night? And I said yes. And then suddenly he shouted to all his colleagues, everybody stopped chopping passport and they all came to take photograph with me. It's like the first time a custom officer treat me so nice in India, you know.
You know, the story, the kind of lesson, the lesson I got from reading your book and reading about the story is that you really need to have thick skin to grab hold of those opportunities, because those opportunities only come once or twice in your life.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say to have thick skin, but I'm sure at that moment before you had that question, your heart was beating hard. I'm sure that you were feeling nervous. And actually, I have to say kudos to you that you actually seized the opportunity, because a lot of us now glamorize, you should have the courage to ask, but not many people actually act on that.
No, actually, I was not nervous at all time in my work because it was fun.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like, hey, I can do this. Maybe I can try that. And of course, of all the things that you saw me succeeded, there are another 100 times that I failed, but nobody knows. But it is not being nervous or worried. It's just that it's fun. And if you have fun doing it, opportunity, you keep on seeing opportunities.
There's another thread in your story which was about the World Toilet Organization, also known as WTO, which also can be confused for the World Trade Organization. You said that it was something intentional.
Yeah, because if nobody wants to talk about toilet, the best way is to get the World Trade Organization to sue me, and calling ourselves the WTO would be the best opportunity. And after they sue me, we'll have a lot of media coverage and we'll argue and we'll probably not pay any money, because when people sue you, it's because you have money, but NGO have no money, so there's no risk at all. And I thought playing that pun was very good, and it turns out to be successful. Eventually, I met Pascal Lamy, the head of the WTO in one of the World Economic Forum, and he said to me, you know, I know you are the more active WTO than mine. So you see, we're not disliked, you know. We're welcomed by the world, except by the NEA in Singapore.
I'm sure there's other work that you're doing now that with the Singapore government that actually helps push Singapore on in terms of our other areas of development, be it cultural, economic, and sanitation as well.
So just to not forget the gratitude to MFA, who helps me table the UN resolution for the World Toilet Organization founding day, 19th of November, to become the official UN World Toilet Day. So that was a very big partnership with the Singapore government. So MFA, I would like to thank them on air that they really did this for the world. The World Toilet Day is then celebrated every year and commemorated, and a lot of policy changes are published on World Toilet Day around the world. I just met last week with the UN Special Envoy for Water. They didn't say water and sanitation, but they say whenever I say water, I mean water and sanitation, but they don't, right? So the Special Envoy was the former Foreign Affairs Minister, Miss Retno Marsudi. And I met her in
Former minister at where?
of Indonesia.
Okay.
Yeah. And I met her in Jakarta, and she says, you know, we know all your credentials. We're very appreciative that you want to offer your help. And I would like to give you the sanitation portion of my work as much as you can do. Please, let's do together. And I'm very happy to work for free for this lady at the UN level. I know UN is bureaucratic, but the legitimacy of the UN is very, very important. And so after my meeting, she made a tweet to say Jack Sim flew all the way from Singapore to come and meet me, and we want to work together. So I think there's a lot of goodwill out there, and the World Toilet Organization is actually a soft power of Singapore that the MFA has to start thinking how to use. Because Singapore is famous in the world as a money place. You are a place where all the billionaires go, and, you know, tax concessions are very good, countries are very livable and safe except for coffee shop toilet, but rich people don't go there, right? So the soft power of Singapore is very little. We have hard power, we have money power, we have influence, but are we kind? I think the World Toilet Organization can show the face of kindness of Singapore to the world. And the last 25 years has been a good journey of helping not just India and China, but we also went to Brazil, and I lobbied the Brazil Senate to pass a law to privatize all their sewage treatment plant, their wastewater treatment plant, because they don't have money to invest. So we have to privatize all their state-owned, 94% state-owned sewage treatment plant by passing a law to say it can now allow private-public partnership, foreign investment, local commercial investment, and turn it into for-profit wastewater treatment plant. And the way I lobbied the senator was that the favelas people, the slums people, the vote banks are so big. And your union vote banks are so small. And the unions of the water company were against it. And you shouldn't be afraid of the union votes. Just lose this tens of thousands of votes and win the 100 million votes. And you are good, the politician go for the big vote because it's popular. And the senators voted 65 years out of 79 senators. And the law was passed because I tipped the scale, and now 14 billion US dollar is invested in Brazilian sewage treatment plant. And I went there 2 years ago to see the sewage connection, and the favelas people are very happy because their drain are no more full of shit and there's no flies around, and children are playing happily. And this is the gratification that I feel so happy seeing people happy. And they said to me, this is the result of you changing the law. And I think if I can speak English to Portuguese speaking people through interpreter and convince them, then how come I cannot convince Singapore NEA? So I have to give up. The design of the Singapore system is to encourage you to give up. So I give up.
I think you've done so many other things, some other areas of collaboration with the government that you've been able to succeed in those areas. So it's not designed for us to give up. Maybe we face some, kind of inertia, and you have this optimism, when it comes to changing situations across the globe. So I hope that, you don't lose that. And you also have an upcoming collaboration with the government with SG Batik, right? So that's something that you are still working on. So maybe in some areas you might face
because they are not the NEA. So the MCCY, I convinced them that this is SG60 and Singapore needs to have our own national dress. Because why is our government wearing, our politician wearing batiks that look like Indonesian batiks, So we have to design our own design language that is distinctively Singapore batik. And how? We don't know. So I'm organizing a SG Batik contest, launching, getting everyone, designer in Singapore, all over the world, to submit the Singapore Batik design. And I hope it's not a Malayan, but it should go deep into our DNA. How do we feel is Singaporeanness? As you know, so many foreign new citizens are coming because our birth rate is falling and our population is rising. So we need clothing to have, say, similar identity to unite people. And I think that this contest, they gave us a very small fund, but I hope that we will be a start of every year having the same contest and designing more and more batik. When I went to Indonesia, every province batik is unique in their design language. So we can consider we should have a unique design here. So I hope that it can be a beginning of a new unification of everybody with a national dress.
Yeah, and the batik is an interesting material as well. It's a uniquely Southeast Asian fabric. In two senses. One, it's extremely regional, so you don't see Europeans wearing batik a lot, but it's something that represents Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can have our own Singaporean adaptation.
I think our language could be hawker food. It's a UNESCO heritage, and if you kind of iconize, when you see the row of ducks and the row of chicken hanging on the hawker store, it's almost like when I see it's like choreography. They are dancing like that. Yeah, the duck, the head is all tilted on the same side. It's almost like ballet.
Yeah.
And why don't we convert that into design icons? And everyone owns HDB flat, 80% of us. And the HDB flat looks like bland, but actually, if you start iconizing it, if you start to codify it, it can be a very nice design language and other things, like national service. I think there are a lot of things that is our identity, but we just don't codify it. And now is the time to do it with the national batik.
Yeah. So to kind of have a symbol that we can wear on us as well. One of the things that I've noticed throughout your career is that you have a certain knack for working with bureaucracies. Obviously, you have your challenges with some agencies within our government, but you've been able to be successful in SG Batik with foreign governments as well. So you have this certain idea of working with bureaucracies. Take me through about how you kind of work with bureaucrats or politicians in general.
I'll just say most people are very frustrated with that. So I got so frustrated that I went to the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy when I was 52 years old to study how to be a bureaucrat. And I graduate at 56 with master in public administration. Of course, I'm not looking a job. I'm already 56 years old. But I came out with this 4 jacks maxim that if you have an innovative idea and you propose to the bureaucrats, the first jack is to reject, because it doesn't, they don't have to do extra work if they reject, and there's no risk if they reject. So if you insist, then they will do the second jack called eject. They push a button and send you to other agency, and you run around and you lose your battery and you give up. And that's the whole design, the design for you to give up. Then if you still come back and insist, then they will do what's called deject. That's the third jack. Deject means I can't say yes, I can't say no, don't call us, we'll call you, and I didn't say no, and all that, then they drag it until your battery go flat. But if you still have a little bit of battery, you go to the top and you talk to somebody higher, maybe a minister or a perm sec or somebody high. And if that person likes it, then suddenly the bureaucrats will activate the fourth jack. It's called hijack. And it becomes his ideas. All the time I was supporting Jack Sim. I wanted this idea to happen. So he will take it. But whether he follow up or not depends on whether he get posted out, because this whole 3-4 years they will circulate people, and then the idea go away again. So it's important that after understanding public policy, I go to the top. I don't want to waste time on the middle management. I go to the top ask the middle management, I let them hijack it, and then we start to work as partnership. So this is the way. No point grumbling with the middle management. So there is in Katong Park, buried under the MRT station. No. So buried under the park, the MRT station is below. Buried under the park is an 1880 historic fort called Fort Tanjong Katong. So I discovered this more than 30 years ago. And I have been working with the NHB, National Heritage Board, and the NParks to resurrect this. And at one time, we actually dig out the whole park and we saw that the entire park is a fort. And it was in the newspaper, front page, centerfold. And then they buried it back. And then they built the MRT station. And I tell them to protect it. And now, after 30 years, the NParks has finally agreed to formally build a fort cafe on the park to commemorate, to educate the people that there's a fort buried in this park. And they are putting new signboard and they expose some part of the park. And I'm going to donate to build 2 concrete cannons out there to popularize it. In fact, I built 2 soldier, red color British soldier, looking like cannons, and I placed it illegally along Fort Road, and people likes it, and the government didn't take it away, and now the NPark make it officially that it was approved. So I do illegal things, I do naughty things, but I love my countries. I love my country. I do things for my country. I'm willing to go to jail. If the government thinks I'm a bad guy, I just go to jail, and then the public will just tell them, hey, how come Jack Sim is a good guy and you send him to jail? So I don't think that they will send me to jail.
What drives this incessant desire to do things that are outside of the box? Most Singaporeans would say, or most people actually would say, just do something that's a bit more conventional. Why do you find yourself, championing for toilets, writing angry emails? What drives you to do this?
So this word called gumption. The gumption of Mr. Toilet. This book is not about toilet only. It's about having the gumption, which means the curiosity, the courage the compassion, the commitment, the collaboration, the communication, and also much needed the calmness to see it through. And in the age of AI, gumption is so important. That's why I want everybody please go and read this book, because it explains what is needed to make a better society. You see, everybody are not happy about something and they expect the government to do it. The government is not that clever, you know. They're good enough for a certain amount. The rest of it we have to do. And we must not be afraid that because we love our country, they will send us to jail. I don't think so. I think we got to be constructive, not destructive. If we just destroy things, then of course it's not right. But for me, I have always thought of solutions, but they keep on rejecting me. That's why the more they reject me, the more I go out of the country and the world gets better. And I think it's all right, because to be able to impact at billion level is better than to be able to impact at 6 million level.
So I would say that you're even critical, and I think that that's actually a citizen's right, to actually be critical. But at the same time, you've followed up your words of action, and I think that's actually even more important, because everyone can criticize, but not everyone is willing to get their hands dirty.
I think if you are criticizing and you're not offering solution, you're actually very lazy, you know. You have to follow through your belief. But then you meet the lazy bureaucrat who rejects you. And so you start your own activism. And you always worry that they're going to put you in the jail or fine you or POFMA you or whatever. But after a while, I think if they do that, the cost to them politically is higher than me. I have never experienced jail, so maybe it's also nice to broaden my range of exposure and just go and enter jail for, I don't know, a month or something like that. Probably won't be very long. So I think this way, but most people have a job. They cannot afford to lose it. So people like me who have no job, probably is a better position, and it's a privilege to be able to speak up.
And you've been very vocal about rejecting materialism, in a sense that we shouldn't be trying to chase material things our whole life. You, for a very long time, WTO, like what you said earlier, was run on one person or a very lean team. You've been doing this pretty much as volunteer work for maybe the past 28 years.
Yeah, I work for free for 28 years.
Why should one, think about living life in a different way, or a life similar to yours?
The purpose of making money is to be free from money. So how to be free from money is you work very hard to make money, and then you live a very simple life that you can afford after that. So when you reach financial independence, then you should not trade time with money anymore, because selling time to buy money is important when your time costs less than money. But if your time is more valuable than money, then you should not do a loss-making business by selling something more precious for something you are not going to use, because you don't need extra money. So I think life is like two stage. You need to secure yourself, and then you go out and secure others.
What I really admire about you was that you followed through on your words, and you put yourself, in the firing line of not just, I wouldn't say just bureaucratic pressure, but also maybe ridicule. Because I think a lot of people might say, when you starting out the Restroom Association, toilets, like why toilets, right? And you essentially shifted the Overton window on it. You changed the way people talk about toilets. And that's something that I don't think is common enough on most issues or taboo issues. And that's something that more people can learn from you in that regard.
You know, when I first begin, all my business friends, they have lunch with me and they say, hey, Jack, you start this new Restroom Association, World Toilet Organization. How are you going to make money? I'm sure you're going to make money from this. I say, no, I'm not making any money. I have no salary. I'm just doing it for fun, you know. And I feel very fulfilled and very happy doing this. They say, don't bullshit lah. You're a businessman, you know how to make money. Can't be that you are doing something for no money. And I say, Shok lah. No, don't tell me about Shok. Tell me the secret. How do you make money? And I say, I don't make money. So they say, no, we're going to observe you. We're going to call your bluff. So 4 years later, the same group of guys invited me for lunch again. And this time they say, you know, Jack, we have been watching you for 4 years and we realized you didn't make any money from this work. But now we know why you are doing this. I said, why? You want to join the PAP, right? You're trying to build your profile, you know. It's crazy, yeah. So, this Singaporean friends, business friends, they're all thinking that you must have something like this, you know. But I explained to them, feeling good is a reward, you know. You go and buy some new dress or shoes for feel good. You go for holiday to feel good. And if you do good to feel good, that's also the reward, right? But somehow I could not kind of convince them. And until today, they must be very disappointed that I haven't joined the PAP.
As you look forward ahead, what is next for an organization like WTO, where you solved a huge part of the sanitation problem? There's still problems that lie ahead. What are the problems that you think the next leap of WTO should try to solve?
So on WTO, the next leap is for me to find a good executive director to bring World Toilet Organization into 2.0 version, and then to hand over all administration, finance, everything, and fundraising. Probably the next group of people will be better than me. And then to continue to do the evangelism and the storytelling, because I feel that my main skill, probably the only skill, is storytelling. And storytelling is very powerful, but I'm not a manager, right? I've run 16 company, but I always employ manager. I'm the entrepreneur. So that's World Toilet Organization. I think it can grow to be leaps and bounds, and it's Singapore only, made in Singapore, global NGO. And it has got a brand that is so big. So I hope the Singapore government can use it as a soft power. If you don't want, no choice. But I'm now setting up a WTO center at the NUS. So that will form a legacy. I'm looking for a big donor to create an endowment between 11 to 15 million dollars, Singapore dollars donation, and put his name with naming rights. And if anybody listening, please call me, or you know somebody. And then this endowment will be able to create the cost of running the center with a professor. Somebody will take that job forever. And that's a legacy to be left behind. I've left behind legacy of writing this book. It took a lot of brain energy to write this book. I have a biopic that is 1.5 hours called Mr. Toilet, the World Number 2 Man. And that movie is edutainment. So the student watch it. When I was in Yio Chu Kang Secondary School, the principal let the student watch it, and they love it very much. And then the question Q&A session was like so long. The secondary school student in Yio Chu Kang Secondary School, they queue up all the way up out of the assembly hall into the corridor, and the question never end because more and more students ask. And the principal said, I've never got student asking so much question, but it was because they watched your movie and they came. So now I'm working with Fu Hua to do that. I hope eventually Chan Chun Sing can take this up, gumption as a curriculum for MOE.
So maybe for you, the next leap, the kind of problems that you want to solve in the coming years is more in the education space.
Education space, I also built a SDG center at Ubi MRT station, a 65,000 square foot building. to house all the SDG activities, UN Sustainable Development Goals. And fortunately, the Singapore Red Cross Humanitarian Academy is now occupying the third story. The UNITA of UN is now moving in, and I hope slowly to build it as a World Trade Center for the poor, because 4 billion people in the world are still poor, and there's no reason they cannot copy the Singapore model, third world to first world Lee Kuan Yew's model. And I think this is again another soft power to end global poverty, the way China copied Singapore, Rwanda copied Singapore, and we have the DNA to teach every poor country to get out of poverty.
If you were to give, advice to someone who's coming out of university and looking to make their mark in the world, and you had a time to give them advice, what advice would you give?
I will say to them, life is very short. It's like 85 years. I time myself at the countdown to 80 years because the last 5 years is very sick and useless. So as at today, actually, I can tell you how many days more I am still alive. I have exactly 4,433 days till my 80th birthday, which I call expiry date. And if you have only so many days, life is 29,200 days when you're born to 80 years. And if you don't spend this time properly, you just waste this opportunity to live a wholesome life. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what do I want to tell myself when I'm 80 years old? Do I want to say I played all the computer games? I had many holidays. I went shopping and buy some Pradas. Is that the meaning of your life? The answer is personal, but it's good to ask this question. Going to the last day before you close your eyes and say goodbye to all your people in the hospital bed, what would you want to say to yourself that you will feel fulfillment?
With that, Jack, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, click on the video that's appearing on the screen right now.